Listing all every time they laughed at you, every time they doubted you, every time they said you'd never make it. Remember that. Burn that in your mind. You think revenge is evil? No, revenge is discipline. It's success. It's waking up earlier than them. It's working harder than them. It's becoming the man they said you could never be. You don't take revenge with words. You take it with results. You don't argue. You rise so high they choke on their hate when they see you. The best revenge isn't violence, it's silence and domination. So when they mock you, when they turn their backs, thank them because they just gave you fuel for greatness. I'm for strong. You know what paid me strong? Pain, real pain. Not the kind that makes you cry for a day and forget it. The kind that breaks you down, leaves you with nothing, and forces you to rebuild from zero. That's the kind of pain I faced. I've been betrayed by people I trusted, stabbed in the back by those I helped, and left alone when I needed loyalty the most. But here's the truth. Every single ounce of that pain became the reason I became who I am. Pain was never my enemy. Pain was never my enemy. It was my weapon. When life crushed me, I didn't complain. I didn't ask for sympathy. I used it. I remember the days when I had nothing, when I was broke, when the world laughed at me and said I'd never make it. I sat alone in my room, thinking about every name, every face that doubted me. And instead of breaking down, I made a promise to myself, I'll turn this pain into power. I'll make every tear worth it. I'll make every betrayal a reason to rise higher. You don't escape pain, you evolve through it. Pain is the most honest teacher you'll ever have. It shows you who you are when the world walks away. Most people run from pain because they're weak. They think comfort will save them. Comfort kills you. Pain builds you. The nights I couldn't sleep, the days I had no support, the moments I questioned everything, those were the moments that created the man I became. You have to understand that every time life hits you, it's offering you two paths, quit or conquer. Every time someone hurts you, you can either drown in it or use it to sharpen your mind and harden your soul. You know, when they talk behind your back, when they laugh, when they think they broke you, that's your moment. That's your signal to grind harder, to stay quiet, and to let time expose what pain has made of you. Pain is your greatest gift if you know how to use it. Don't waste it on self-pity. Handle it into something unstoppable. Every scar you carry is proof that you survived something meant to destroy you. And now you're stronger, sharper, and hungrier than ever. Revenge isn't about screaming louder, fighting harder, or trying to prove someone wrong with words. It's about building a life so powerful, so unshakable, that their opinions no longer matter. When I was broke, when I was hustling, and nobody believed in me, I realized something: arguing with people who doubt you is useless. You'll never convince them. You have to show them. You have to become the man they said you could never be. That's the real revenge. You know, I've been in rooms where no one respected me. I've seen people smirk, whisper, and act like I didn't belong there. And I stayed quiet. I didn't argue. I kept my head down and kept working because I knew one day those same people would have to watch me from a distance, wondering how I did it. That's what building does. It silences noise. You don't have to destroy anyone. You just have to rise so high that their hate becomes meaningless. There was a time when I was completely broke. No one was calling, no opportunities, no help, nothing. I sat there and thought, no one's coming to save me. And that's when I understood my revenge won't be in what I say, it'll be in what I build. So I worked every single day, no sleep, no excuses, no breaks, and slowly everything changed. The people who once ignored me started to notice. The same ones who laughed at me started to ask for advice. That's what success does. It flips the script without you having to say a word. You know, most people waste their energy trying to get even. I used mine to get ahead. That's the difference. You can throw punches all day, or you can build an empire that no one can touch. You can let their hate consume you, or you can let it push you to levels they'll never reach. You choose what your revenge looks like. When I see people obsessed with getting back at their enemies, I laugh. Because the moment you start winning, that's the only revenge that counts. That's when silence becomes power and success becomes your statement. Silence is one of the most powerful weapons a man can have. When I was younger, I used to think I had to respond to everything, every insult, every rumor, every lie. I thought defending myself meant strength, but I learned the truth the hard way. The more you talk, the weaker you become. The more you react, the more control you hand over to people who want to see you fail. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is dominance. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop reacting, you take back control. I've had people try to drag my name through the mud, people who lied, betrayed, and twisted stories. I could have fought back, shouted, explained, but what's the point? The world doesn't care about explanations. It watches results. So I stayed quiet and let my success speak for me. You can't argue with results. When you start rising, when your life starts reflecting discipline and strength, their words mean nothing because you're not fighting on the same level anymore. You've already won. There were times when people mocked me, called me names, said I'd fall off, said I'd never survive under pressure. I remember sitting there angry, ready to respond, but something in me said, wait. I kept my mouth shut and got to work. I built, I improved, I pushed harder than ever. Months later, the same people who doubted me were suddenly quiet. That's the power of silence. You let your achievements make the noise. See, silence scares people. When you don't react, they start to wonder what you're planning. When you don't reply, they realize you're focused on something bigger. And that's what breaks them, the fact that you don't even acknowledge their existence. Because real power isn't in shouting. Real power is in staying calm when everyone expects you to explode. It's in moving quietly while they waste time talking. You want revenge? Then stop responding to every little thing. Let them talk, let them gossip, let them doubt. Every word they say is free fuel for your fire. You don't owe explanations to anyone. You owe results to yourself. Discipline is the ultimate payback. It's what separates men who dream from men who dominate. When I was broke, when I had nothing, I realized no one was coming to save me. I had two options: sit there feeling sorry for myself, or build the kind of discipline that would make me unstoppable. I chose the second. Discipline became my revenge because while everyone else was sleeping, I was working. While they were partying, I was building. While they laughed, I was sharpening my mind. And eventually, the same people who laughed had to watch me win. That's what discipline does. It turns your pain into power. There were days I didn't want to move. Days when my body was tired, my mind was heavy, and life felt like it was against me. But I got up anyway, not because I felt like it, but because I refused to lose. That's what most people never understand. Discipline isn't about motivation. Motivation fades. Discipline stays. You can't rely on feeling good to get things done. You have to move even when you don't feel like it. That's where the real growth happens. When I was starting out, I wasn't the strongest or the smartest, but I was consistent every single day. I showed up, no excuses, and slowly the results started to come. People saw the outcome, but they didn't see the nights I went without sleep, the sacrifices, the pressure, the pain. That's why discipline is the best revenge. It's invisible. No one sees the grind until it's too late. They only see the result and realize they could have been you if they weren't lazy. You see, the man who controls himself can't be stopped. You can't break someone who's already mastered his own emotions. Discipline is what makes you immune to failure, immune to criticism, immune to hate. It's what makes you rise when everyone else falls. That's why I don't chase revenge. I earn it through consistency. You want to beat your enemies? Outwork them, outlast them, stay locked in when they give up. You know what really haunts your enemies? Your success, not your anger, not your words, your success. When you rise higher than they ever imagined, when you live the life they said you'd never touch, that's when they feel the pain. I've seen it, I've lived it. There were people who looked at me like I was nothing, who laughed when I failed, who told me I was wasting my time. And I didn't fight back with hate, I fought back by building. Every time they doubted me, I worked harder. Every time they laughed, I reminded myself, one day they'll have to watch me win. There was a time when I couldn't afford basic things, when I was struggling to survive, trying to find direction. People disappeared. The ones who claimed to be friends suddenly had no time. I remember that loneliness, that sting of being forgotten, but I didn't let it break me. I let it fuel me. Every rejection became another reason to keep going. I told myself, one day they'll regret doubting you, and that became my fire. Because the truth is, nothing eats at your enemies more than seeing you succeed without them. You don't need to shout about your victories. Just keep winning. Every achievement, every move forward, every moment you prove you can't be stopped, it destroys them quietly. They'll act like they don't care, but deep down, it burns. They'll pretend they're happy for you, but inside, they're suffocating in their own jealousy. That's the real revenge. When you become so successful that their opinions don't even register anymore, I've learned that your rise exposes everyone. The fake friends, the jealous ones, the ones who secretly hoped you'd fail, they all reveal themselves when you start winning. That's when you know you've done something right. Success doesn't just build your life. It cleans your circle, and it forces everyone who underestimated you to live with that reminder every single day. So don't waste time trying to get even. Don't explain yourself. Just build, just grow, just rise. Let them watch, let them choke on their envy. Revenge isn't about hate. It's about evolution. It's about becoming so much stronger, wiser, and more unbreakable that the version of you they tried to destroy doesn't even exist anymore. I learned that the hard way. I used to want to get even. I wanted to prove people wrong to make them feel what I felt, but that mindset keeps you trapped. It keeps you tied to people who don't deserve your energy. Real revenge isn't hurting them. It's outgrowing them so completely that they can't even reach you anymore. When I was at my lowest, I thought about everyone who turned their back on me. The people who used me, who lied, who laughed when I failed. For a while, that anger drove me. I wanted to show them, but as I started building myself physically, mentally, financially, I realized something powerful. I didn't need to destroy them. I needed to evolve beyond them. The moment I focused on becoming better, everything changed. My mind became sharper, my goals clearer, my energy unstoppable. That's when I understood the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. When I was broke and forgotten, I could have stayed angry, but anger fades, growth doesn't. I turned that frustration into discipline, that hate into hunger. Every day I improved, I left another version of myself behind. And now when I look back, I almost feel grateful for those moments. Because without that betrayal, without that struggle, I wouldn't have evolved into who I am now. Pain built me, failure taught me, and evolution became my payback. The people who tried to break you will never understand how much they helped shape you. They thought they were hurting you, but they were teaching you resilience. They thought they were ending your story, but they were writing your beginning. That's evolution, turning everything negative into something unstoppable. You don't have to hate anyone. You don't have to fight them. Just rise above them until they're no longer in your world. Revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. Turn your pain into power, evolve beyond their reach, and let your growth be the answer they'll never recover from.